So many schools of thoughts we've been through, yeah, to keep us strong. So tell me, what is it that you're willing to do to make our dreams come true? Yeah, make our dreams come true. Been a long time coming, but now we're here. So won't you stand up and show no fear? For the master, master teacher, freedom for the master, master teacher, freedom for the master, master teacher, freedom for the master, master teacher. 'Cause he's a man of the hour. They kidnapped him for building Tamarae. He put his life on the line for us all, and for the truth the lies must fade away. Fade away. It's been a long time coming. Yes, let's be strong. For the 7 seals are breaking. It won't be long to make our dreams come true. For a life that's new. Some are called and few are chosen. Said, how about you? For the master, master teacher, freedom 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 for the master, freedom, master teacher, freedom for the master, master teacher, freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher, freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher. Think not that we are earthborn, so come from earth we may be, but we are life-born spirit, and without knowing we can never be free. Knowledge of this was lost when we were cast into blindness. The master teacher came and broke the chains of bondage. For the master, master teacher, freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher, freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher, freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher, freedom for the master, bring it master teacher, bring it freedom for the master, master teacher, freedom for the master, bring it master teacher, bring it freedom for the master, master teacher, 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 freedom for the master.
They did everything in their power to take this land and make sure that what's happening right now does not go on. They tried every trick in the book. They ain't finished. They tried slander, defamation of character. They tried to lock brothers up, harass sisters on the street, stop every car coming down, make sure they did everything they could. And not one person come out and help us. Why? Because they had us marked as a cult. Oh, there's some crazy suicide cult. There's a concentrated effort to stop it. They'll do anything to stop us, especially now. Because where is our opposition?
He's been fighting for us for so long. So many schools of thoughts we've been through, yeah, to keep us strong. So tell me, what is it that you're willing to do to make our dreams come true? Yeah, make our dreams come true. Been a long time coming, but now we're here. So won't you stand up and show no fear? For the master, master teacher, freedom for the master, master teacher, freedom for the master, master teacher, freedom for the master, fade away. Fade away.
Naut mugdad badet pata, naut mugras badet yanum. Anuki jawef pa ashuk pa paut, o kalal ashuk kawun jawef leya. Anuki kasam pa paut, o pa paut kawun kasam leya. Anuki wahu ame pa paut. Upa paut kawun wahu ame leya. Naku kador najor ame kasam pa paut. Chabub ame mushkas Naku kador kawan kalal kafaf nakuk ara jawef pa paut. Ame aratni kawun laye bakoi jawef pa paut. Anuki abedie nafashni, pa paut kawun anuki, pa paut kador nakuk kador, pa paut amul nakuk amul. All right. So, for those who want to know what that translates as, baror, nabab, natar, mukdar, that means holy, 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 master, overseer, almighty. Then na'ut, mugdad baded patah, na'ut, muklas baded yanun. No God except patah, no savior except yanun. Anuki jawef pa ashuk pa pa'ut. I am inside the divine love of the all-expanding. Wu kalal ashuk kawun jawef naya. And all divine love is inside me. Anuki kasamun pa pa'ut. I am a part of the all-expanding. Wu pa pa'ut kawun kasamun emnaya. And the all-expanding is a part of me. Anuki wahu ame pa pa'ut. I am one as the all-expanding. Wu pa paut kawun wahu amehneye, and the all-expanding is one as me. Naku kador najor ame kasamun pa paut. I can succeed as a part of the all-expanding. Wu chabub ame mushkasum, and fell as an individual person. Naku kador kawan kalal pafef naku arod jawev pa paut. I can be all that I wish in the all-expanding. Ame, wase, ame, aradni kawun laye bakowi jawef pa paut. As long as my wish is to stay in the all-expanding. Ashni, I am never by myself. Pa paut kawun anuki, the all-expanding is, I am. Pa paut kador nakuk kador, the all-expanding can, I can. Pa paut amul nakuk amul, the all-expanding does, I do. Okay, so we always invoke our ancestors in everything we do so that we get the guidance and the protection that we need to in this day and time. So welcome everyone. Welcome those here physically in class. Welcome to those online on all the platforms, on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Clubhouse, and Instagram and all the other social media that we use, Twitch, etc., etc. So for newcomers, before we get into today's class, which is entitled How to Think, Not What to Think, we just want to give a small introduction for newcomers of who we are, as Sabians or Nuwapians, and we'll give you some reference in terms of our website so that you can continue to, do your further research and getting to know us. So I am Seqen Sakambreye. I am one of the student teachers of the Master Teacher Partner Babyanun, His Excellency Dr. Malachi Kobina York, known to many as Malachi Z. York. We refer to him affectionately as Pa Nabab, which translates as the Master Yanun. And he is the reason why we stand up here before you to administer this right knowledge or the right wisdom and the right understanding that will lead you to your liberation, to your freedom, and to the right sound reasoning. Okay, and we do that by way of the teachings of WU-SABAT, our culture. All right, for those that are new, we have our official website, which is on your screen right now, UnitedSabiansWorldwide.com, where you can get to know more about who we are, about the master teacher, who you see on the screen right now, referred to as the Black Messiah. And you can even send him messages right now by clicking this picture. Okay. And if you have any questions, click the picture and you will be able to send him any questions that you may have. Of course, the questions are a way that he knows how we're developing mentally, you know, because he's waiting for someone to ask him a question that he's never been asked before, or someone who thinks they may have a question that he cannot answer, you know. So these are just a few examples of the questions. Q&A with Yanun. Who are the three frogs? Why is the world in chaos? Where is the Messiah today? What is UFO or UFOism? How did we get here? Who are we? And the list goes on and on and on. And you can read, and then if you would like to ask a question, there's a section here where it says questions for the master teacher, Yanun. You can just type your question in there, hit submit, and then he will get that question. And if he hasn't already answered it in one of the many, almost 1,000 books that he has already published, then we will get the answer, and it will help him to raise all of us up higher in terms of intellect, and basically continue to upgrade us on our quest to becoming the supreme beings that we're really supposed to be. All right, so that's our worldwide official website, UnitedSabiansWorldwide.com. Our job is to uplift humanity, and one of our most famous sayings is, no one wins the race in racism. All right, we here in the UK have our own website, nashat.co.uk, where we help the community, we help people with providing them a source of the information from Partner Babylon by way of the books. And we also help people deal with mental health, which covers a variety of things from depression, anxiety, fear, anger, just worrying about prosperity, relaxation, happiness, peace. These are all things that give people relief from mental health issues. So we have a book called The Mind by the Master Teacher, because you have to, first of all, have your mind at peace to be able to function and, act accordingly, because your thoughts are very important. We have another part of that called the mind's eye, which is also very useful for people to start to work with their mind. So again, on this website, you can search for health products. You can, obtain the scrolls like the mind. We have other health products as well as cultural products. So those two references in terms of our websites are very useful for newcomers. All right. So we also encourage people, because our doctrine and our information, our classes are based on you also doing research, checking things out. We don't ask anyone to believe anything we say. We're not a church. We're not here to try and recruit people. It's something that you do by yourself in terms of, doing the research. And once you come to the conclusion that it makes sense, you make that decision as to whether or not this is the way of life for you. We know it is. We know it's the best way of life for humanity, but you have to come to that conclusion yourself. All right. And when we teach, we use tools such as this blueletterbible.org, because we want you to research. This tool is an online tool We don't have any affiliation with them. It's just a tool we've been using because it has the facility for you to search words, topics quickly. It has all the versions of the Bibles on it, such as you can see here, we've selected the KJV, which is the King James Version. But you have all the other versions as well, because sometimes people play the trick of, well, it's not in my Bible, and people are making up their own Bibles as we go along. But the most widely known and used one is the King James Version, so we use that as well. But you can use any other version. We do the same with the Quran. You have Quran.com, where you can, again, do some research, search things so that you can see it for yourself and not take our word for it. All right. So those are just a few references for you to use to do research. In addition, we always encourage people to join our Telegram group, because we get questions all the time. Questions are not just based on the classes. We have people from all over the world that are coming to WU-SABAT for the first time, and they can ask us questions anytime. And of course, because of the different time zones, we may only get around to them when we are up. So be patient when you ask your question on Telegram. We do have a number of student teachers on there, so the likelihood is someone will answer your question. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to get into the topic for today, which is how to think and not what to think. To manage your expectations for today, I'm probably going to just speak about the topic for about 20 minutes or so, perhaps half an hour at the max, and then we're going to open up and give you the opportunity to ask us anything on the topic for today, or any questions you may have on your quest. Okay, quest, the word quest is the first part of the word question. So it is important to ask questions. Don't feel shy, don't feel silly, don't feel like your question is too complicated or complex. Just ask your question, because it's coming from you, it's coming from your soul, it's coming from your ancestors that live within you. So by doing that, you get to the right knowledge, because there is something as wrong knowledge. So we deal with right knowledge, the right wisdom, and the right understanding, which, as I mentioned before, will lead you to sound right reasoning. Yeah. So after the short presentation, we will go into the Q&A. You should take notes, because we give a lot of quotes, we give a lot of references, and sometimes people don't take notes. It's important to take notes, because you can't really remember everything, and it's good to look back at your notes as you progress in your learning. All right, so let us begin. Why I decided to do this topic today is because one of the biggest problems we face in this world is that many people do not know how to think. In fact, this may come as a surprise or as a shock to you, but many people don't even think. What do we mean by that? Before I go into that, it does have a huge impact, especially on disenfranchised people, particularly the Negroid race, because there has been a concentrated effort to stop you from thinking and from really knowing how to think, but really you just have forgotten who you are. So we intrigue you so that you can start to remember who you really are. So in today's class, we're gonna give examples as we go along as well, in terms of how to think and not what to think, with real practical life examples. Why is this important? Many of the problems faced by individuals and humanity as a whole up until this day have come by, or are caused by, decisions that people have made by not knowing how to think. And remember, the word knowing or knowledge starts with the word know. All right. So it's all about you knowing, not about you believing. So if you don't know how to think, how are you going to solve problems? And it's really about saving lives, saving humanity, and having a positive outcome in your lives and future. That's what we're going to learn by way of this class. All right. So why have people, or why did I say that people don't think? People don't think because they're programmed. And when you're programmed, if you ever look at a toy like a robot, you whine it, you let it go, and then it starts moving. And that's the programming. So people are given different types of programs to run in their mind's eye, and that makes them not think. Technology has played a major part of that. So if you go back years, when you were in school, you didn't have to use calculators. You had to do arithmetic and everything yourself. So you were exercising your brain and your mind. And when they introduced calculators, a lot of children stopped developing their mind. And this was done intentionally by extraterrestrials. This now includes smartphones, the internet, social media, and now AI is making the situation worse for those who don't know how to think, because they're merely following instructions. But we as Musbatu or NIH, the Nubian or Nuwapian Islamic Hebrews, are here to help you. Right? So keep these words in mind as we begin to explore this topic and subject. There are 9 quests, worthy quests. And remember, I said the word question begins with that word quest. Number 1, what is thinking? Or let me just go through them first, and then we look at them. The 9 words are what, when, where, why, who, how, and then the last 3. So those are 6. I'll go through them one more time. What, when, where, why, who, how. Then you have to add proof, yeah, confirm, and reveal. These are the 9 quests or worthy quests. So let me ask a question. I like interactivity. What is thinking? Anyone online or in the class? What is thinking?
Putting 2 and 2 together.
Putting 2 and 2 together. Okay.
Process that allows you to get your ideas out.
A process that allows you to get your idea out. Yeah, please do use the mic for the listening audience online, but I will, if I can, repeat the question.
So yeah, a process to allow your ideas to get out.
A process to allow your ideas to get out. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone online?
Okay.
Tua, go ahead.
Yeah, the mental ability to assess and analyze situations.
Good. Right. Thank you. All right. Next question. Is anyone on Zoom? Let me just make sure so we're not leaving them out. Okay. Let me just stop sharing the screen for a moment so we can interact with those people online. Yeah, so yeah, those are all great answers. Remember, at this stage, we're just looking at you know, what these things mean. I'm just looking on the chat in the Zoom. Okay, Rahubat. Question on, okay, we're going to come to the questions. Just allow me the 20 minutes or so to get through this topic, and then we can go into the Q&A. Okay, next one. Where did you start thinking? I didn't say when.
So where?
Yeah. Remember when I said at the beginning, remember what, when, where, why, who, how?
Where? Yeah.
Where did you start thinking?
In the womb.
In the womb. Okay, that's interesting. Anyone else? Where did you start thinking? Okay, then we go to when did you start thinking? Because that's what you were saying when I said where. So when did you start thinking?
It's very interesting. When the
Yeah.
process of you come out the room.
Hmm?
Because you're in the room
Yeah.
where you was. Yeah. And when you come out the room.
So you started thinking when you came out the womb.
Yeah, because there was a process.
You've just contradicted yourself.
Haven't.
Okay, I said, where did you start
Yeah, I said
thinking?
where
You
was
said in the
womb.
womb.
Yeah.
And now I said, when did you start thinking? You said when you came out of the womb.
Okay, I see what you said. Let's rephrase it. When would be in the womb
Okay.
and where would be in the womb as well.
Okay, see?
Yeah,
right.
because obviously as a tadpole, you have to think where you're going.
Okay.
It's
So
just,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. But you see what you've just done there? When you said as a tadpole, you weren't in the womb yet.
Was towards the womb.
Right. So so when did you start thinking? Because now you've just but now we've moved from you saying where and when was when you were in the womb.
I'm going prior.
Right. So now you see already this is how to think. This is what I'm trying to show you, right? So now, as I've said that, you said when I was a tadpole, but the tadpole didn't start in the womb. Greetings, rather.
They didn't.
Yeah, so I'm saying, when and where did you start thinking?
Okay, all right. Let's go back.
Okay.
Prior to the tadpole, because this what's it called?
Okay. Let's. What is a tadpole?
A sperm. Let's get.
Okay. Right.
All right.
A sperm that looks like a
Looks like
tadpole.
tadpole.
Right.
Yeah.
So now,
initially,
yeah,
the thought wave from the father's mental, what's it called? Insertion, came out. That's when you start thinking.
when
When you came out what's it called?
The phallus.
The phallus, or the phallus.
So
The father,
the phallus,
So that's when you started thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, you have to think to get to the womb first before you die.
Before you die.
Yeah, because
okay, but do you see how
there's a chaos?
The sperm has intelligence
to
be able to know how to get to the ovum. Yeah, not the womb yet, to the ovum. So that's what I'm saying. So you started thinking prior to how we walk backwards, right? From as you were originally thinking, it was in the womb.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going. Let me see if anyone else has. Oh, there's somebody with their hand up. One second. Let me bring Paulette, I'm bringing you up on stage. And let me see. So in Zoom, people are saying using the brain. That was Bree. Delilah says reasoning. Ricardo said start thinking in the mind. And someone else, Atom Ray Komet, said in the womb after evacuation. I think you mean ejaculation. The sperm is a brain traveling in the mind. That's from Delilah again. And Omar says from the conscious state, I think. Okay, right. So Paulette, I've tried to bring you up on stage, but for some reason, it's not allowing you to come up. So maybe if you go out and come back in, I can bring you up on stage on Clubhouse. Okay, right. So why do you think? Remember, I'm going through the what, where, when, why. Why do you think? Yeah. See, this is exercise in the mind, because a lot of people really don't take the time to really, the sister. The question is, why do you think?
It's another game.
Because it then follows the action. Otherwise,
Let the sister have the mic, please.
Okay, I think, my opinion is that thinking is preceded by the action that you will take, which would or should be
Okay,
well thought out so that you make good decisions.
okay, right. Okay, great. So, yeah, Paul, I still can't bring you up on the stage. I'm not sure what's going on. So as I suggested, please go out and come back, and then I'll try bringing you up. I'm alone. I don't have any admins in the clubhouse at the moment. All right. Yeah, okay. This is good. How did you start thinking? Okay, what do you think with? The mind. Okay. So did you have a mind as a sperm?
Me.
Yeah, you said you started thinking from the
Yeah,
sperm.
obviously the
Yeah, we have to keep reminding everyone to use the mic, please, just for the benefit of the listening audience online.
sperm does have a mind, obviously, to navigate through the canal, as it were. Otherwise, you would know where to go.
Greetings. Okay.
So therefore, I'm saying like that because to navigate somewhere, you gotta know or think, you know where you're going in terms of like the process of thought.
Okay, so we've established that it's not your brain that makes you think.
Yeah, because the mental realm, you get the thoughts from the mental realm
Right.
into your brain.
Okay.
Which turn into synapses and everything else,
Okay.
the neurons.
So who taught you how to think?
It's already programmed in you
By
your, it's in the math and risk. Everything you're designed to do is already pre-programmed in your DNA. So therefore, your DNA is programmed to register what your capabilities are, what you can do, and
the question is, who taught you how to think?
Material.
Whoever created you.
Well, basically, not your parents, but the way you think,
Please use the mic.
the level or the depth of your thoughts, depending on the type of being that you are.
Yeah.
The basic thinking will come from the more basic, simplistic creatures, mammals or creatures generally. And the more advanced or intellectual you are, the more your thought process, and obviously as humans, yeah, we started as that.
Okay.
Tiny.
Anyone else? Okay, let me try bringing. Yeah, you're on the stage now. You can unmute your mic and ask your question. For those that have just joined us, we were just going through the topics or the parts of the topic of today, which is how to think and not what to think. And we were looking at what is thinking, where did you start thinking, when did you start thinking, why do you think, how did you start thinking, and who taught you how to think? So did you have a contribution to make?
Do we think just like naturally? I would say, we think naturally because we got a brain in it.
But we just established that your brain is not what you used to think, because there are sentient living beings that don't have a brain. And as my brother over there was saying, when you were a sperm, did you have a brain?
No.
But how did you know how to travel to the ovum?
Is it because that the mind or the soul or spirit is connected to the mental reservoir?
Exactly.
So is that why we're able to think with the brain, or just the soul? The soul is connected to it, so that's why we're able to think, because the spiritual in the physical, and the brain is physical, right? Isn't it? Yeah. So
right. So not everyone thinks though.
Trees think, don't they?
Wait, Mike, please use the mic.
So if you had like a plant and there is not just something just obscuring the light, not fully, the plant will lean towards where the light is, because that's the way it's going to then make the go through a process of photosynthesis.
Right.
The chlorophyll. So it's like it's thinking, it's naturally just made to seek the light, to seek where there's moisture, the things that it needs, it puts the roots in, goes deeper if it's not getting. So it's like a thinking, it's a living thing, a living being. So it's as if it's thinking, but it doesn't have a brain.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Thinking is not necessarily because you have a brain, because many people have a brain, but they're not thinking. They are actually programmed and they're following the programming. They're not using any mental processing. Sorry, go ahead.
You just said what I was going to say.
Yeah.
In terms of programming, because
Right.
once you just say who programmed the bird, if you used to sit on a chair, someone breaks the chair, and basically who designed the program for the bird to sit on that branch. Normally it's like basically if you sit a human being on that branch, you'll break.
Yeah.
I mean, so basically that branch is specifically designed for that bird's weight in terms of that the bird's programming. So yeah, that's true.
Okay. So are you finished?
Yeah, I finished now.
Okay.
I think you ask questions.
No, I was going to say something, and what you have all missed out, and this is how to think, is what you're talking about is intelligence.
Okay.
Intelligence is not thinking. It's naturally encoded in you. Intel in the genes. So in your genetics, you have been given the intelligence. So when we start looking at how to think in terms of intelligent design, that's what my brother Benson was saying. There's intelligent design, which is why everything is genetic. So the genes of whether it's plants or animals or humans, but you know there's a hierarchy of humans, right? So again, you have supreme beings at the highest, leaning to what our sister Karen was saying, that depending on your level of intelligence, you're going to think, or more importantly, as we're going to look at, is reason. That's why I said in the introduction, you go wrong knowledge, you go right knowledge, all right? Because if you look at computers, they have processors, right? And the manufacturer of a processor, one of the most widely known one is what? No, the processor.
Intel?
Intel.
Okay.
Intel, right? So they are the most widely known manufacturers of processors. So the Intel, but when you say intelligent, you're saying you're intelligent. And the processor is what actually does the thinking on the computer, if you want to use that word. All right. Okay. Another question. What language do you think in?
What are you talking?
Why are you laughing? Please use the mic. Let's get it. What language are you thinking in?
Some people say in terms of where you're born, and I mean, but not necessarily, because at the end of the day, when you're born, you're not actually thinking a language. You are, but it is obviously they program you again to like speak English in your child, wherever you are in the world. So therefore,
So let's ask the question again. What language are you thinking in right now?
what language am I thinking in right now?
Yeah.
Obviously, English, you get the words out in English to process it.
Why are you making it so complicated? All right. Anyone else? What language are you thinking in?
It probably has
Do you hear voices in your head?
I think if it has to do with a human being.
I'm
then-
talking to human beings. I hope. Right.
Those less intelligent, etc. Anyway, but basically, if we're thinking in a language that we have heard from our infancy whether in the womb or from the time we're born.
Right. So what language
So-
are you thinking in?
So, but in my case, it would be English.
Okay. Anyone else? The brothers. got his hand.
I think it's an interesting question because you have people who are, for example, when I think about my parents, they were born in Ghana and that's the languages that they speak. But when they're here now, they're speaking English. So I don't know if they're thinking in their native language or if they're thinking in English.
Okay.
I just wanted to kind of.
What about you?
Me, English.
Right.
But I feel like I see, as I'm thinking, I'm seeing things in my mind's eye as well. So
Right. Okay.
that's not necessarily a language. It's
Why not? It is a language. That's the thing. You see, now, when we start to look at, I asked a question on purpose because most people are thinking in English. It took a long time to get there, but if you're being honest, your thoughts right now, you're sitting there thinking, no, and you can hear the English in your head. So you are thinking in English. But the question is, going back to the original question, when did you start thinking? How did you learn to think, etc., etc.? You're telling me you were thinking before you learned English, but now you're thinking in English. So something's happened. You see,
Programs changed.
yeah. So you're all programmed, or we're all programmed to think in English, and somebody that programmed you to think in English is in control of you. That's how deep. And that's why we have our own language. And when we start talking about language, how important language is. Yeah, because when I say you're been programmed with what to think and not how to think, meaning that whoever's done that to you has got you to think what they want you to think, because whatever word you hear in your head, excuse me, it has already been defined. So if you think of any word right now in your head, anyone, what word did you think of?
It's gone, but I can't remember.
Okay.
I initially thought of, but
Anyone else? Is someone on? Okay, Paulette, your mic's open. Go ahead.
Color.
Well, this my speech is a little bit affected by the issue that I have, but I wanted to make an attempt to respond to this question by stating that a fetus, the fetus at a certain stage in its life, say for instance, during the second trimester, during its mother's womb, during its time in its mother's womb, it still have certain type of mental stimulation during its time in the mother's womb. Not during the first trimester, but second and third trimester of pregnancy, but especially after birth, when the baby, the fetus, the newborn fetus starts to receive stimulation from its external environment. Stimulation and starts like yes, no problem. Okay. Oh, okay.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I see. Yeah. Thank you for your contribution. So yes, you've made an important point, Paulette, which is vibrations, frequencies, tones will have an impact on the baby. I see you, Liz, with your hand up, but we've got somebody in class and then we'll come to you. So go ahead, Zamal.
Yeah, just a second, when you said what language we're thinking, we don't think in terms of words, it's images, isn't it? In the brain, in the mind. So if I was to say to someone, think of a cat, you wouldn't think of CAT, you would think of the image of the cat, like an image. Yeah. They're like images rather than.
Sorry, Paulette, can you mute your mic once you've finished speaking, please, so we don't get any echo? Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Zamal.
Yeah, I'll just think that.
Yeah, but that's both. You can like who was saying that they see images as well as hear sounds. So when you start looking at it, images and sound work together. That's why, even though when we were saying language, I was like, there are different types of languages. You know, there's tone language, which is vibrations and frequencies. And do you have a question? Because I've got a few people on. Okay. Yeah. So Liz, you can unmute yourself and ask your question or share what you want to share with us. And then after that, Sonny Fro.
So I mean, it was from like the beginning question of how we think. I think we use our eyes, heart, and mind, because you got to see it. And then with your heart, like your consciousness, like what, morals, values, and then processing everything in your mind based on what you're like, what the frequency or what energy you're receiving from what you're seeing. And then you come into the reasoning of it.
Okay. So
makes sense.
how do you see when you don't have eyes to see? Because as a sperm, you don't have eyes yet, or do you? Yeah. Remember this whole section is to provoke your mind and to energize you to think. Go ahead.
About the book Intelligent Design and Job Aliens. It says in there basically the intel, like you said earlier, the computer, is already pre-programmed inside your DNA. So therefore the beings that put the DNA in terms of the womb and etc. When pre-programmed, like it says in the Planet Risk on page 6, I think it is.
Yeah. It
talks about you're pre-programmed already. So therefore, we're gonna do in life on this planet, it's already destined in terms of that pre-programming. So therefore, the intelligent design is already in your DNA, in your RNA. So therefore, when you say you can't see, it's already pre-programmed inside your genes.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't say you can't see. What I said is,
if you don't
yeah,
I'm saying, yeah. So I'm saying,
yeah, with me, you have to pay close attention.
Genes. It's your genes and RNA.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
no, I hear you. I hear you. All right. Sonny Fro, you're next. You can unmute your mic and ask your question or share your
with that being said, with the DNA, RNA, and actual what takes place in the womb, is emotion. Is there any emotion? Is there any emotion involved in any of that? Does emotion exist, or could that be the first language by any chance?
Yes, you're correct. Because emotions is energy in motion. So that energy, even if you look at it as the sperm, it's energy. And as you were saying, when we start to break down the science of what takes place, when the sperm travels up to your crown chakra in the man or the male, it travels up the spinal column and it goes to the pineal gland and it gets ignited and receives that energy, which most know as the soul. And then it comes back down, having been energized with that energy, and then it's in motion as it comes back down, and then it gets inserted or injected into the woman, into her ovum. And that pure energy or that soul being is what starts to grow. And then the woman is responsible for creating everything else around that. That's why in religions, most people refer to God as a he and being up there and the father. And then when it comes to this domain, everything is called the mother nature. Mother is the nurturer because she's the one that actually grows the baby in her womb. And then, as you say, even in the womb, children start to pick up the tones, the vibrations, and the frequency. So when you play music or you're in a nice environment, the baby starts to move because it's actually reacting to those vibrations and those frequencies. Use the mic, please. I'm already running out of time. I thought to do this for 20 minutes, but go ahead. Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, do we even need a language to speak? Because if things are kind of based off emotion, energy, frequency, and that, you might not really need to really open your mouth and say words. You can speak telepathically also too.
That's a great point. That's what I was saying, that, yeah, when you're communicating from mind to mind, that's telepathy. Or the master put it like this, a telephone to the pata'is, which becomes telephone. But yeah, the dolphins use something called echolocation. They use tones, vibrations, and frequency. And the word dolphin does mean womb, because the dolphin was the mechanism by which our ancestors inserted that intelligent design or the DNA into the capsules, into them to seed the waters of the earth. And then our ancestors, the Ogdoads in ancient Egypt, and the 9 Enneads, we refer to them as snakes and frogs, and they came out of the waters, and then life kind of evoluted from them. It's the same thing that still happens today when the life comes out of your mother's womb in water onto land, you see. But yeah, so there are different types of languages. Computers have their own language. They communicate in zeros and ones or binary code. And now AI is able to make its own language up. And AI speak to themselves in their own language that they have created to avoid humans knowing what they're talking about. So intelligent design is language is not just based on words, but those words, when I said you're thinking in English, is when the spell was cast on us. And that spell is what we're breaking now by way of our own language, because we have to speak our own language, because whoever gives you the language that you're thinking is controlling you, whether you know it or accept it or not. So you have to start speaking our own language, Mispatia. That's the way you break the tone. That's why the master teacher keeps updating the language. And people say, how comes a language keeps changing? Because it's alive. And anything that is not alive is dead. And he's doing it knowing that in order to eradicate the dead tones, if you try to think of a word in Mispatia and that word has been upgraded or updated, you're going to think of the previous word. You're not going to think of the English. So eventually you won't be thinking in English. And that's why children, they don't learn a language by getting books and studying. They learn it by hearing the vibrations, the tones, and the frequencies. Yeah.
I don't want to cut you.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say to you, because I remember times my mum and other like people in the family, we've probably all gone through this, like they're speaking to you in like facial expression,
yeah,
or sign language, or even by tone. Like certain times you might go and touch at your mum, I'll be like, like that. Like, you know what that means. Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
Or even just a look.
Yeah, good look.
Your parent will be in a crowd and just go, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you hear it, you know, fix up,
Mm.
you know. So you're right that it's looks, it's gestures, it's eye contact. This is what they study as body language.
Mm.
Like I could be talking to you and asking you certain questions, and your body language is telling me a completely different thing than
Yeah.
what you're saying out of your
Yeah.
mouth. And I will still know what I need to know from you without you even knowing it. Yeah, so you're definitely right. So now think about this, right? When you go to school, which is the word shul in Hebrew, which means hell, right? Yeah, that's what school means. When you go there and they teach you, what are the two subjects that they tell you you should definitely have when you leave school?
English.
Why is that? That's right, maths and English. You're not using the mic. Please use the mic. Yeah, but why maths and English of all the subjects? You still want to elaborate, or you're okay?
Just in my opinion, they need to be able to communicate with you, whether they want to brainwash you, whatever it is, they want to give messages. And then they need to know that you can count the money.
Yeah, you think it's funny. Yeah, literally, they want you to work for them and be a slave and follow instructions. And that's it. They don't want you to think for yourself. They just want you to do, at least they can give you instructions and you can comprehend the instructions. And then mathematically, you can deduce and be able to put one and one together or whatever they, and that's the basics. That's what they ever want you to really learn. So imagine that all we've done just now is go through what to think and not how to think. So now when we start looking at how to think, because this is what the master teacher has taught us to do. That's why when we start looking at situations with anything, there are different levels to it. And even with thinking, there are different forms of thinking. Does anybody know any different types of thinking?
Maybe positive or negative thinking?
Yeah, that's true, but that's the result of what you do. But I'm saying, what are okay, let me give you one. Critical thinking.
Okay.
What does that mean?
Mm.
Yeah, please use the mic. What is critical thinking? We're gonna get to the questions. I'm seeing the questions on the Zoom. We're gonna get to the questions.
So deep analysis to a point where you actually break things down in detail, fully detail, not just parts, bits and spats of it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
deep analysis would mean that, for example, master teacher said use example, so clock face. Something I say is a 2D face, it ticks, but the person who built it will go in intricacy of like how it actually ticks and it talks.
Yeah.
In terms of like the time.
Thank you. Yeah.
So that's what.
Yeah, that's now we're gonna go into how to think. So when I said about language, like before you get into the language, and we're now going back and forth with the language, the first thing you should really do is what?
The question again?
But we started talking about language and we were going back and forth using the language and we're talking. But if you were thinking, and in terms of knowing how to think, what would be the first thing you should do when we talk about language? Yeah, sure. The brother behind you needs the mic. Okay, on TikTok, WU-SABAT says, so there is mental activity in the male sperm from the brain of the male. Absolutely, 100%. Go ahead, Zamal.
Well, what comes to my mind is the overriding question for me when I come here is, what is the basic paradigm? How can I think about this teaching? And so what is the basic paradigm? Is it the 9 ether? Is it the as above, so below? Are those two related?
Right, you're not answering my question though. I'm saying that. Let me make it. Maybe I'm not making it clear. Okay, we go, brother.
Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you. We're gonna address that.
I would say to understand the words. What does the words mean in the language?
Right, but even before that, okay, how do we get a language? That's what we should be thinking. Who gave us the language? How did we get that language? And how is it put together? Like you just said, yeah, you'd have to go, okay, the building blocks of the language. Someone gave you an alphabet, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, blah, blah, blah. So somebody came up with that. And where did that come from? Then the alphabet gives you the letters that you then put together to make up words. But then now you have to study words because most people don't do this. Like when you look at a word has a prefix and it has a suffix. And in between the two, it has what? See, this is what I'm saying. We don't think and study like that. Like we have an affix, which is basically there are three parts to a word. And then when you get a word, you have to look at, okay, without the letters, you wouldn't be able to make that word, like G-O-D. That wouldn't exist if you didn't have the alphabet. So then you have to be like, what existed before that language, before that alphabet, before you put the words together? Because obviously the words then make up sentences, and then the sentences make up paragraphs. The paragraphs make up chapters. The chapters make up books. You end up with dictionaries, encyclopedia. But even before then, when you're putting the words together, you have a system of punctuation. Yeah, grammar and punctuation. Punctuation like what? Give me one. Anyone?
Full stop.
Full stop, comma, exclamation mark, speech mark, question mark. Then that one little symbol changes the context of the word. You see? And so when you say God, G-O-D, and you add an S to it, that's one symbol. It changes that whole word. Because it's now not one, it's more than one. You put a question mark, it changes it into a question. A full stop. Like, so when you're actually using a language, you have to study the language. And that language is designed to spellbound you. And that's why most people are under the spell by words of the spellings. You see, so the master says 95% of our problems will be solved if we learn our own language. Yep. So you can start actually thinking, because when you're using your own language, it's actually reprogramming you. Because the way you think, it creates grooves in your mind or neural pathways. And those become habits that you repeat over and over and over again. So now when we start going into the English language, as you know, you say hello, hell is low. Low vibration. You say good morning, but you're saying my God is Lucifer. People don't even know, like, you know, have a good week. Why do you want to be weak instead of strong? Why are you moaning or mourning? You do that when people are in a depressive state. You see, so we have to learn our language. That's how important it is. I'm going to give a few more examples and then we can get, because it's already 8 o'clock and I want to get a lot of questions. So before you get caught up in something, like the trap is dissect it before you even use it. So someone gave you a book, whether it's the Bible, the Quran or whatever, and they tell you this is how life began and there's a God, and people get into the book without stepping back and going, who put that book together and why? And, you know, and then we get caught up in the stories and people are fighting, arguing, unaliving each other over words of men. Yeah, so we have to look at the origin. When you look at the origin, the word origin, think of the word original. The first part of that is origin. Yeah, so you have to go to the original and they say prime. The prime or primeval or primary. That's where you're starting, primary. Then you go secondary, obviously, then high school, college, university, all the way to higher education to even becoming a professor, which just means people that profess to know. They don't actually know. Yeah, you go to your GP, general practitioner. They're practicing. They don't know. They're practicing on you. So you're giving your whole life and being to them to practice on, and they don't know what they're doing. You go to the hospital for them to be what? Hospitable to you.
Yeah.
They give you cups and teas and all of that, but they don't actually cure you. So they're just being hospitable. It's not the purpose, yeah. Because it's based on, think about it. This is what I'm saying about how to think. If you get cured, there's no need for a hospital.
Yeah.
There's no need for the pharmaceutical industry. It's why give you a pill you can take and now you're healed forever? Then I can't sell you that pill again. Yeah, so it's all about how you think. Yeah, so when you look at dictionaries, encyclopedias, sorry. Use the mic, please.
You said dictionary will be definitionary because it
Yeah.
gives you deaf in terms of like you're not to define the word, not dictating.
Yeah, because dictionary deals with diction. Diction is sound. But you don't sound the words like it's like they define the word, but they should be calling it a definitionary.
Yeah.
Not a dictionary. You see, so yeah, you're definitely right there. And words like righteous. What does the word righteous mean?
Kind of means something good.
Because religious people say they're righteous. I'm walking the righteous path. The word righteous means you're right, but they're all wrong. How can you be righteous, which means to be right, but you're all wrong because you're fighting against each other? No one knows what they're doing, because if they did, they were united. But they're not. They're divided. So they're not right, because everyone claims to be right, and that's why they think they're righteous, but they're not. Go ahead, sis.
Someone can follow a righteous path by making good decisions where you are thinking about what you do, that it doesn't
So that's WU-SABAT.
life.
Now, what I mean is,
to in a negative way. Then that makes you righteous because you're thinking.
Okay, I hear you.
Do something or say something or
okay, there's self-righteousness and there is being right. You're either right or you're wrong. You can't say, like the master puts it like this, there is no right way to do wrong things. I know that it take a while for it to marinate, but like, you can't tell us that God is all wise, right, and exact and makes no mistakes, and then the next minute we in WU-SABAT dissect it and say he can't be all right. Can't be right, because how can you be right and then create a being that you grieve afterwards that you made them to go wrong? So either you made them with mistakes in the first place, which means you're not right, because how did you not know they were going to go wrong? How did the devil come about?
Because of free will.
Yeah, I was going to say that is what.
No. That's what you're programmed with. That's different from being right. Because what does it mean to have to be free or have freedom?
Say that again, sir?
What does it mean to be free or have freedom?
Being unbound, isn't it, by any type of.
But you're bound.
I know.
So then you make a choice that goes against what he wants, you get punished for it. That's why he creates hell. But why create a hell? This is where we're saying how to think now. Why create a hell in the first place? Why create sin in the first place? Why create wickedness if you are someone who doesn't make mistakes?
But did the God or gods create wickedness, or is it because of man's free will?
Who gave man's free will? See, goes back right back to the same being.
A lot of times, these things happen because of selfish behavior, selfish thinking.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, who gives you the ability to think?
Well, it's like the brother said, it's literally programmed in you.
From who?
Whoever creates.
No, we can't say whoever. This is where WU-SABAT is right. You have to be right.
Expanding, we do believe.
Oh, so you've gone into WU-SABAT now? Because just now you were talking for God. And that's why I put you in it, because God can't make mistakes. If you're saying that, I'm talking about the gods of the Bible, the Quran, and the religious world. Yeah, they tell you they are omnipresent, omnipotent, they know everything, they created everything. But then they make mistakes, which means they don't know. Because to know something, you then can't make a mistake.
Sorry, on what basis do you say that they're making a mistake? What's the logic there?
Like they created a being called a human, according to their writings, and it grieved the Lord in his heart that he made God, because God was doing evil or wickedness continuously. So did he not know that was going to happen? Or even the devil, like people tell you that God created everyone and everything, and the devil just happens to have more power than God, would you say? Does God have more power than the devil, or does the devil have more power, or do they have the same equal amount of power?
Well, according to the definitions of what we understand as God, God is, as you say, all powerful, omniscient, and so on.
Right, but he can't be, because he can't get rid of the devil.
Well, he didn't create. Well, in my understanding of Christianity, God didn't create the devil.
Yes, he did, because they tell you the devil was once an angel.
Yeah.
Well, he created the angel, yes.
Right, so that's my point. He's made a mistake. He created an angel, but didn't know the angel was going to go bad to become the devil.
Well, in my understanding, he created the angel, and the angel chose by free will to do things against the principles.
How? How can you go against God?
He had free choice, free will.
But he doesn't, because the result of that means that they get punished and go to hell.
Well, wrong actions create hell.
Yeah, but who gives you the ability to have wrong actions?
Who gives you the ability
to have wrong actions?
Well, an immature being can
see. This is all. This is why I say this is guesswork. Now you're trying to speak for God, but we're saying to you that God, the gods of the Bible, are not who you think they are. They do make mistakes. You're really talking about Enlil and Enki mainly, but because of the programming and the language and the books that you're under, you attribute them as being perfect and all wise, all right, they know everything, they can do anything, which is not the case. There are conflicts between them. That's why you have those who follow Enlil, right? They align themselves with Enlil, and those who follow Enki. And that's your biblical stories that bring about the chaos that we're following on the planet today. All right.
Something I don't know about. Okay.
Yeah, so you would need to do a bit more research on that. All right. One of the questions that people ask us a lot of the time when they come into WU-SABAT is, which book or where should I start to kind of put everything together? And the master teacher, this is how to think again, right? He's got, let's say, 1,000 books. The best way of explaining this is like having a puzzle with 1,000 pieces. You know, when you get a puzzle, it's got little pieces, you put them on the table, and then you start to put it together. Now, how do you put it together?
By looking in.
Right, you pick a piece, you put it together, you build a little picture, and you might start another little piece over there, But eventually, as it gets bigger, you bring them together and then you have a big piece and then you can then put the rest of the pieces. So the books are like that. So you pick one book, Patarak, Actual Fact, Master Secret, any of the scrolls, you digest and study that one. Then you put another piece and another piece. So there is no like one piece to start. You can pick up any piece of the puzzle from the table to start your picture building. And somebody else might pick another piece. So really it's your being, your ancestors will guide you to the right scroll or which one to like read first. So there is no like right way to do it. Like people, because of programming, they think there's always got to be like a beginning and an end. So you kind of go A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, and you think that's the way you need to think. But no, you can start in the middle and go outwards. You can start at the end and come this way. You can start at the beginning and go that way. Like we go in any direction. Yeah. So that's how you have to think, that you just go put the pieces together by getting whatever scrolls you would like to. I'm gonna actually touch on some of the scrolls. A few more examples.
Is it wrong to think in terms of paradigm?
No, not at all. But you have to put into context. Like the paradigm we're in right now is we're shifting from the old consciousness to a new one or a new dimension. And the old way of thinking doesn't work in this new dimension that we've moved into, right? In this new sun cycle. That's why we're saying like, you have to reprogram yourself. You have to start utilizing WU-SABAT, because WU-SABAT gets you to know how to think and not what to think, because religions and schools and all this old system in the old paradigm, as you say, is based on you not having the ability to think for yourself. And a lot of people are literally what we call walking dead, because they're not processing things. They're not checking things out. They're just believing. That's what belief is about. It's about just accept and follow what I tell you to. If you think or come outside of that, then you're not accepted or you're not a part of us. Whereas WU-SABAT does the complete opposite. You know, another few examples before we go into Q&A. So, another one, time, okay? Like, when you think about time, they teach you that time starts off with what? What's the smallest unit of time?
Second.
Right. Okay, but when you count, where do you start?
First.
Straight away, you see the programming. You go 1, 2, 3. First, second, third. So when it comes to the clock, why do they go seconds and then go that way? Seconds, minutes, hours, and then they give you a concept of what time is.
It's starting with the smallest unit, isn't it?
What's the smallest unit? No, it's not. The first is smaller than the second.
First, second. First comes before second.
No, but that's what I'm trying to explain. Yeah, no, we're trying to explain to you that that's how they've programmed you, because they're missing out the first. And then when you're looking at the clock, and what does it do? It goes tick tock, right? You have to think about this now, because it's how you think. What's in between the tick and the tock?
You mean, are you talking about the two hands?
Yeah. So you got two hands and you got a second.
Second one that goes.
Yeah.
The third one that's called the second one now.
Yeah. The third one is the one that.
The third hand, so to say.
Yeah, it's a third hand, but they call it the seconds.
That's the second hand. Yeah.
You see how confusing.
How the minute of the second.
Out of the three hands.
You're not using the mic, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Even then, when you accept that to say that it is keeping the lowest denominator or the seconds are going tick tock, but there's time between the tick and the tock that is not being accounted for.
Yeah.
Do you follow?
Yeah.
So 60 seconds, what's in between the seconds?
Millisecond?
They do say that, innit? There's milliseconds as well.
Yeah, they do say that, but what I'm trying to explain to you is that the first people that were on the planet is us.
Mm,
They came second.
yeah.
That's what we said: primary creation, secondary creation, or tertiary creation. So,
What does that word mean on tertiary?
like third, or if you say first creation is primary, and then you have secondary. So they start off when they came on the scene because they don't know what was before. So they will say that he's teaching you his story, right? Which starts from him when he arrived on the scene. But there's before him, which they call what? Prehistoric. Prehistory. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pre the time he was teaching you when he came on the scene, which was 6,000 years ago. Adamites. I'm talking about Adamites.
There's not a lot of documentation, or even they may find some relics, and they're beginning to find more and more.
You're not using the mic again, but yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But there is documentation, and when they find it, they don't actually make it available to everyone.
Yeah.
But now, because of the paradigm we're in, it's about truth, it's about everything being revealed. So the truth is definitely out now. Just little things like, you know, we say this all the time when you read the books and it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And you're like, how can that be the beginning if you're already there? Do you follow?
Yeah.
Like for him to be there, that means he had a whole beginning to get to where he is, to go, let there be light. And even this is just critical thinking, that when he says let there be light, most people don't go, what type of light is that?
Yeah.
Because there's different types of light. Fluorescent light, fire, there's electrical light.
It does say the greater light, which is referring to the sun, and the lesser light
Is
the moon.
no, it's not. The lesser light is not the moon.
That's what they said.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Critical thinking. Right. So then it's not the light, is it? The moon doesn't have no light.
What it says, a reflection.
Everyone's speaking at the same time. Let's and you're not using the mic. No, but what I'm saying is, you just said. No. Sorry, can we keep? Yeah, because it's gonna get chaotic. But go ahead.
As far as I'm concerned, when he said "let there be light," he hadn't yet created the sun yet.
Yeah.
Right.
So where did the first light come from if he didn't create the sun?
Okay, so if you say the sun is the light, then and the moon is not having the light, so what is the lesser light?
Then the stars that are.
No, those are suns. They're suns.
They are suns. So then it's not clear.
Well, that's what I'm saying about. That's what I'm saying about critical thinking and how to think. You see, there is the light that they don't tell you or teach you about is the light. Are you guys okay? Right, the light that is within you, because you have a light within you, right?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, this is why we say most people would think that does somebody want to say something? Most people would think, oh, I think Anap, you had your hand up a while ago. Sorry, I completely forgot. Do you still have your question or would like to unmute yourself and share your thoughts? Oh, I now have a moderator, so that's good. Yeah. Can hear you. Go ahead, Jamal.
So ask a question about being electromagnetic semiconductors and being that thinking is thinking the process or somewhere in the process of receiving, transferring, and giving dishing out back energy.
Right. Correct. Yes. You're right. Yeah, because you're constantly receiving and That's why we say out formation into information. So yes, you conduct electricity and your magnet. That's what holds everything together. When we say you deal with electricity and you deal with magnetism, that's how things are held together when you start looking at how atoms are held together because of the magnetism, because it's dealing with what we know as nutation. Okay, so when you start looking at even atoms are held together. You have a nucleus or the center, and then you have protons, and then you have electrons, which electrons are really the electricity that they appear to be revolving or around the nucleus as electricity, but they're all packets of energy. And so, yes, you're definitely right. This is the kind of level of thinking we gotta go to, so people can know that when you start breaking things down, nothing is actually solid. You're just dealing with frequencies and vibrations at different density levels. So yes, you're absolutely right. All right.
For the room,
Mm-hmm.
being reactive to energy, is that could you elaborate on that as far as thinking
Right.
goes?
Mm-hmm. So this is why the master explains to us that we are affected by everything around us, because you're dealing with the fact that as dark melanated beings, we are affected by our environment. We're affected by the lights, the sounds, the colors, thought waves, and the many other types of waves. So you have ultraviolet rays. There's so many things that affect you as an electromagnetic semiconductor, because you conduct, you receive, and these come into you, and you have to learn to stay away or not to be affected by harmful vibrations and frequencies or energies. Yeah, so this is why melanin is such an important part, because they've studied melanin and understand or overstand fully now about, well, we overstand fully about what melanin, the power of melanin is. And melanin is really coming from the sun, and we grew with the sun as sun heat genes. And without us, we're the magnet that holds everything together on the planet, but it creates what is known as enmity or a love-hate relationship, because if you can't really get rid of us, because then everything will fall apart. It's just like the black ink on the white piece of paper. Without the black ink, there is no intelligence or intellect or knowledge, which is shared by way of the writing. This is why Pana Babyanun, as the pen that guides him, it's the magic that puts those words onto the paper, which you read, and it has a miraculous effect on your being. Because when you're reading it, it's reprogramming you, and it will have a different effect on every person individually. And that's why we always emphasize to read, not because we just say read for the sake of it, because we know the effect that reading has on your being, how it recalibrates and reprograms you and upgrades you to become the supreme being that you're supposed to be. All right, one more example in terms of, and then we'll go into the Q&A, so you can ask questions about any other thing. I'll look at the chat in the Zoom after. So this is, again, another way about how to think and not what to think. A traffic light, and you have the little green man that tells you to cross the road. Now, if you were waiting to cross the road and the traffic light was green, which means what?
Oh.
Right.
The cars.
Thank you. See, for the cars. All right. And you're waiting to cross the road. and there are no cars coming on either side, and the little man is red. What does the little red man mean?
Stay there. Wait.
Right. Okay. So, what would you do?
You will assess the situation.
Remember, I already said there are no cars coming, and the light's green for the cars.
See, if I can safely cross without putting myself in danger.
You want to use a mic, please? But listen to what I said. I say it again.
That's thinking, isn't it? That's me critically thinking.
No, you're not. I tell you why. Because I already said there are no cars coming on either side of the road.
How wide is this road? Can I get across before something turns up?
Right, let me rephrase the question one more time. The traffic light is green, right? But there are no cars coming on either side of the road. But the little man that tells you to cross the road is red, which means what? Right. And my question to you is, what would you do? Right. But some people that are not thinking will wait for the man to turn green before they cross the road, even though it makes sense. There's no cars coming. Yes, the light says green, but there are no cars. Sorry, say that again.
If it's a very wide road, I still think.
It could be as wide as you like. My point is there are no cars coming,
So
which means that you've already assessed that you're not in any danger.
So that's a few minutes of Steve Miles.
So you're making it complicated now.
Like,
See, this is you know.
take a lane or call out a lane and turn.
No, okay. It's a straight road. There's no curves and nothing. It's just a straight road. You want to cross the road, and the little red man says red, and you're standing there looking both sides, and there are no cars. Some people wait for the green man to turn from red to green before they cross the road because of the programming. Yeah, right. Go ahead, Zamar.
I'm gonna say, if you're thinking for yourself, yeah, and you've assessed it how you're telling this question, yeah, then it's just, I don't know, I can't say, well, it's just right to take the opportunity to go.
Yeah.
Because there's no cars. I was gonna say common sense, but common sense ain't common though. So I wasn't gonna say common sense.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's just right to take the opportunity to make that move because there's no cars.
That's right.
You've scanned the whole scene. You need to get over the other side. Even though the light screen for cars to come, there is no cars. And the little man is red telling you to wait. But what are you waiting for? You don't need to wait.
Right.
Me personally, when I always have the opportunity, I take it and I cross.
Right.
So I don't need to wait for nothing.
So there are people waiting for Jesus to come. And they've been waiting for thousands of years. No, but this is what I'm saying, how you think, because if you start asking them, how is he gonna come? And where is he gonna come? And how are you gonna know who he is? When he comes, if he comes.
We gotta ask him some questions, isn't it? We
Yeah.
gotta like break him down.
Yeah, because people have been waiting for, the Jews have been waiting for 4,000 years, Christians have been waiting for 2,000 years, the Muslims have been waiting for 1,400 years. And they say, the Muslims, that when he comes, he's gonna then take a ladder and come down to the mosque, or, you know. So when you're thinking, how does someone travel intergalactically, get there and then needs a ladder to come down? Right. So now let's go to the Christians. They are waiting for someone, and I ask Christians all the time, how would you know if he comes? Because if somebody walks down the road today with long hair,
well, he has to look European, is there, with the blue eyes?
Why does he have to look European?
Well, that's the image they've given us.
Right. So if somebody walked down the road looking like that, how would you know if he was Jesus then, or not?
No, again.
They wouldn't know. Absolutely not.
In fact, they wouldn't even believe what he's saying.
In fact, he will get arrested.
They would call police on him.
Yeah, it's happened many times. So this is going back to what we're saying about thinking about situations and things that you've been programmed with. You know, the Jews, they're still waiting for the Messiah. They don't even believe he ever came in the first place to then go and come back. And when you ask Christians, how did he leave? How did he go back?
Said there was a cloud.
Go on. If there was a cloud.
It's in the book of
Yeah, let's dissect it. Tell me how that worked. There was a cloud, yeah.
Because he was not in the. He had a different body, basically.
He had a different body.
According to the Christian.
Okay. So when did he get a new body?
When he rose again,
From-
although he was able to eat and drink.
You see what I mean? This is how when you start to think about it. Okay, let's carry on with the cloud thing. I find that quite interesting. Right. So let's go on. So what happened?
Before their eyes, he was caught up.
Caught up.
Called up.
Called up. So he just went up in the air with his new body.
Yeah, well, basically, because there was a time when it's recorded, and that was even before his crucifixion.
Okay, let me.
It was translucent.
That sounds nice. It's a good story. Nice little story, but it's not facts. Right? And if you went up as just as a person, you wouldn't get past 6 miles off the planet before you stopped breathing and couldn't breathe and you would die. This is what I mean about how you think about stuff. Like he didn't have a suit, he wasn't in a craft, yeah, he just rose up and went to heaven. How far away is heaven from the earth for him to just travel with? You can't even go on an aeroplane and think about coming out of the aeroplane without, yeah. So when you start to think about these things, it's a joke. And
Well, he went spiritually then. It must be
that sounds nice. You can't prove that though. No one, that's what I'm saying. They take it from the realm of facts, reality to ghost. Because now there are Christians who say Jesus is around, but they don't know where he is.
Facts. There's a scripture, there's a chapter that says that he had told them to gather and pray and wait for him to come.
Told who?
The disciples, those that were close to him, followed him while
He told them to wait, yeah?
gather together,
Yeah.
pray and wait.
Wait for what?
Well, he was talking about that they will have this blessing, which is the comforter, which is like the Holy Spirit. And then he suddenly appeared, but it said no doors were open, so he came through the wall. But
And then he ate a sandwich after.
He ate fish.
How is that? How does a spirit eat fish?
It's just the things that get you to believe without thinking.
Exactly. That's the whole point of today's title about how to think and not what to think. And the last example, because I want to go to Q&A before we wrap up. It's like our master teacher's case. You've been told what to think and not how to think. Meaning like if you don't investigate and get the evidence and study what actually took place, you're just going by hearsay and going by what somebody else has said, that somebody else has said. It's Chinese whispers, in other words. But there's a new movie out. Well, I don't know how new it is. My brother told me to watch it, called Mercy, that I watched. Very interesting movie, talking about the future and how, I'm not going to spoil it for everyone, but you have AI that is the judge now over anyone that commits a crime.
Oh yeah, I saw that trailer. Yes, I saw that trailer.
Right, but the point I'm making, just to round off, is in that movie, if you're accused, you're supposedly guilty, you're given time to prove yourself to be innocent, and you have to provide evidence and gather evidence. And the AI being so obviously now in the future, it's able to do everything quickly. Like it can show cameras, it can pick up voice messages, it can basically recreate the scene, everything, to see if you were at that point, at that time or whatever. So it's a very interesting movie because you have to deal with evidence when you're dealing with facts, when you're dealing with truth. You can't go to court and say, well, I believe that I was robbed. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, you have to show some evidence. And the judge has to make decisions based on evidence, not I believe. That's why in the garden story, it said that when Adam and Eve ate the apple and their eyes were open to what? To know good from evil, not to believe good or evil. to know. And so the word belief is based on I just believe. I believe this, I believe that, which is blind faith. But we deal with actual facts, and that's what WU-SABAT is here and about. Did you want to say something?
No.
All right, so that I'm gonna leave it there, but I hope that's giving you a taste of how to think and not what to think, because this whole world, this whole system is designed to give you what to think. Think like this, wear that, eat this, go here, go there. But if you don't stop and think for yourself and be like, does that actually make sense? Then you're just being under control of somebody else.
Come to me, this about Monday.
Mm.
I think I said it earlier to you, simulation.
Oh, the games, the Sims.
That's it,
Yeah.
Sims.
Simulation. Yeah.
Sims used to be a whole computer game on, I think it's PCs. And what it is, a simulation, you create a family,
Yeah.
take them shopping, bring them back, take them out, bring them back, feed them, get me some process.
Yeah.
So basically this whole 3D dimension is a simulation of what we're
That's right. You're living in the Matrix, and a lot of those movies, whether it's what's the auto the car one?
Automan.
No, GT. GTA. Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm trying to remember. In these games now, you can literally live a whole life. Go shopping, buy clothes, phone people, go Pizza Hut. You could do all of that, and even unalive people. So if you're in that world constantly, and now you've got the meta and AI now that's distorting everything to the point where people don't even know what's real from what is, which, you know what I mean, it's a simulation. But you gotta, with Nine Mind, with WU-SABAT, you gotta learn how to think so that you can break out the simulation, or else you're gonna just be controlled and be food for the gods. The brother was
Just want to ask, is there a book on what to think and what not to think?
Yes, we start with the book called The Mind.
Oh, that book, yeah, that's the one, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
and then we have a part of that called The Mind's Eye. There's another one called Projection and Reflection. There's so many books, you know, but they get you to, the whole of the doctrine of WU-SABAT is about how you think, because you got to be able to process things, be like, that doesn't make sense, and that doesn't make sense. And then when you start to put the pieces together, you start to break the spell. And most importantly, we have to learn our language so that we can speak in the right tones. All right. So let me just look at the chat in Zoom, because I can see there are some. So in the chat, we have, okay. Wu Ashok, my question is on manic bipolar disorder. My son was diagnosed with this. How do we overcome this without medicine, or is it the ancestral forces involved? When you say bipolar, that literally means that you're swinging from one extreme to the other. So this is why we say the DNA and the genetics play a major part. So when people are saying things like mixing with other than self and kind, yeah. So let's say you're mixing with a being that can't really take the sun or eat hot pepper or, you know, spicy food, and then so you got two people, you got two extremes. When you get together and have an offspring, the offspring is poling between one side to the other. So 1 minute they're hot, the next minute they're cold, because they are conflicting genes. Now, if obviously you're already here, then it's about climate control, or how you manage it to be balanced. So we have, you know, many things you can do in terms of, again, like I said, not without knowing the person or the history. We're not here giving medical advice, disclaimer, but it's about, you know, being in a situation where you understand what's going on or understand what's going on with the two extremes. This is why in WU-SABAT we teach not to go to the extremes, because, you know, that causes chaos, because you one minute you're calm, the next minute you're flying off the handle. So it's really about learning to do things that will calm the mind down, that you take control over it and deal with natural remedies. Sometimes you need you need to change the environment. So for example, many people that lack sun, they need to go to a sunny country and get that vitamin D and get the, because whatever the environment you're in, if it's affecting you, then you need to try and change the environment. And that starts with everything to do with, like we were saying, like what you're exposed to, what you're putting into your body, and the things you're doing. So you'd have to look at everything and see how you can change it, because sometimes just changing your diet alone makes so much difference. Okay, we covered that. What else do we have? Why we think, is it reasoning? Yeah, reasoning, thank you for that, because reasoning is the higher form of what people call thinking. Because when you're reasoning, you're actually looking at things from different perspectives and analyzing and processing them at a higher level. So reasoning is the ability to go beyond thinking. Connection, knowledge, or information, it could be internal or external. That's right, Bree. Like, you're constantly receiving and projecting or sending out information. That's why you know that every time you're with someone, you either gain energy or you lose energy, because someone might be drawing the energy from you, or you might be drawing that energy from someone else, or vice versa. And the environment does play a major part, Delilah. Yeah, we feel vibrations, which could be seen as language. Cool. Tones and vibration matters as well. Actually, actions are a form of communication without language. Not necessarily, because you hear the language in your head, which gives you the thoughts, which then result in the actions. So without even speaking, you can pick up people's thoughts, or you can pick up, because a thought is actually tangible as well. All right, I'm just almost finished with the questions here. Question: why didn't Eve scream for help when the serpent tempted her? Did she scream in her spirit but didn't know how to translate it out? Her vocal first. No, the thing is that that's a great question, because this is what the Bible and these books do. They make you think it was a snake when they changed it to the word serpent. In the language, it didn't say serpent. But when you hear serpent, and then you think of a snake, but it wasn't a snake, because no woman would really stand in front of a big snake that can talk, if we're being real. A woman seeing a talking snake will run. And as you say, scream. But the word that they've mistranslated from was whisperer. It was the whisperer, because the being that was speaking to her was whispering the truth to her, like telling her secrets, in other words. That's why he was like, it was actually Ningish Zida, which is a whole different class. But he was like telling her, did God really tell you that if you eat that fruit, you're going to die that day? Because that day you will die. That's what it says. And the book by Partner Babyanun called The Proof, which I've got right here, goes into detail about those things. Yeah. So The Proof, covering the title, by way of Partner Babyanun. Great book. So this is why we can explain these things and say, like, no person, female, will stand and listen to a talking snake. And how did the snake know the language that she could hear? What language was the snake speaking for her to even be able to understand what he was saying? But he said, did God tell you that when you eat it, you will die that day? And he told her the truth. He said, surely you will not die. For God does know that in the day when you eat of that fruit, your eyes shall be open to know good from evil, and to be like one of us, okay, which was one of the Elohim. And when they ate it, or when she ate it, her eyes did indeed open and she did not die. So God was lying in that incident. And when people say eyes, you have to think, what eyes are they talking about? Because she was walking around the garden to see the tree, to see the serpent. So obviously was not talking about your physical eyes. We say third eye, but that's the first eye. But that's what I'm saying. They turn everything back to front. All right. So can you explain similarity between Egyptian and Indian Vedic cultures? Well, the real similarities, if any at all, is that they all talk about beings coming from outside the planet Earth, which we break down as extraterrestrials. But when you say Indian, that's kind of broad. But really, you have the Africans who were first seeded this planet. Then other beings got to know that there was a planet called Earth or Ard, or it's known by many names, Tamat, etc. And then they started to come here and also, came here with their own entities and then set up shop. Some of them then mixed with us. Some of them studied us and started to worship us because we were so powerful and the things that we were doing. So that's where religion was birthed. That's why we always show you the similarities between like Krishna, which becomes Christ from the Greek of Christos. Okay. I know from you without you even know that without you even know that's gold. That question is confusing. Ricardo, if you want to rephrase that. Both English maths have been created and distorted to manipulate spells and casts using these. Exactly. Etymology. When we think about language, is the origins of etymology. Wow, I didn't know that. This is very interesting and eye-opening. That's from Liz. There's no right way to do wrong things. Yeah, that's good. Who else? We have to, oh yeah, this is from Raye Sananda. We have to do a hard reset and go back to our system. BIOS and wipe the programming of Bill Gates Windows. We need the WU-SABAT operating system, 100%. 9 ether is between tick and tock. Exactly. Time is none and the dark light. What is dwarfism? Dwarfism is when you see dwarfs or people that are small and they're stunted in their growth, that comes from extraterrestrial genetics as well. Namely, the first one being the Pataites, who were originally only 4'5" for the women and 5'4" for the men. And then you also have extraterrestrials known as the Duanis, okay? And they're short, small beings as well, but they're very intelligent. They live in the caverns in the center of the earth. And we've done a video on the different aliens or extraterrestrials, so you can see what the Duanis look like. Someone said I would probably cross the road. I think that's going back to the example we were talking about before. Mind controls critical thinking, says it's safe to go. Right, there you go. All right, that's all the comments, and let me look at the Clubhouse. Wow, we've got quite a lot here. Let me go through them quickly. Atum Rahubat, Wawed Jamal Seqen Kamreye, Anuki Atumre Kmet. My question is on, oh yeah, that's the same question, manic disorder. Yeah, we'd have to, you can get herbs and look at natural remedies. Right, George Rahubat, can I get the Zoom link? I was removed from Telegram yesterday till now. I don't know why I was banned, given that I am not that person who promotes scam messages, but I was victim to that too. I may have violated the terms or, yeah, just state, yeah, we'll look into that for you, George. Okay. Yeah, we'll have to look at whatever the reason was for the admins to ban you, but we can look into that. What else? Can't find the microphone. Where do I find the min? Where do I find the min? Paul it. Not sure. Is that where do I find the mic? I don't know. That question is vague. Anun says English for most American people, or over here in the West, we think in many dialects. Yeah, it's possible to be thinking, oscillating between different thoughts, as you said, in your mum's tongue, and then back to English. And yeah, oh, go ahead.
So next question, which is music, in terms of different oscillations.
Yeah.
So they have the frequency, like Ghana or Fanti or English,
Yeah.
or whatever language,
Mm.
some tones are different.
Yeah.
So vibrations are totally different to what you're speaking.
Mm.
So therefore, do musicians, obviously you're a musician yourself,
Mhm.
do you think differently as to
Yeah, that's a
on
great
your-
question. That's such a
on your
great
piano
question. That's what we were
part?
talking about on Monday when you asked me. And I said to you, it's such a great question because if you're a musician or producer or anyone that is really into music, when you're listening to music, I remember the master teacher mentioned on a tape where he was saying in the future, when you listen to H-Town, you will not only hear H-Town, you would experience it in a multi-dimensional way. Like, let me answer that question and I'll come back to the H-Town thing. So when I'm listening to music, I can hear and see everything. Like if you're hearing drums, because I know how the producer put the drums together or how the drummer played, I literally can hear every part of the drum. Like I can tell what the hi-hat is doing, I can hear what the snare is doing, I can hear what the bass drum, I can literally hear the different parts that are making up the drum pattern. And that will be the same for the keyboard, for the strings, for the whatever other sounds is going on. And I can visualize how it was made. You see, so someone who doesn't know about music may not think or listen to it in the same way. So it'd be nice to know what people that are not musicians or music producers are hearing in their head when they're listening to music.
Would that mean then, you know, the brain oscillation?
Yeah,
So therefore, in water, the different patterns.
yeah,
So therefore, in a person's music mind,
yeah.
the oscillation frequency is totally different to a mind that's speaking differently.
That's why the master asked all of us to learn an instrument. Because when you learn a musical instrument, especially something like the keyboard or the piano, it gets you to use both hands, both feet, both left and right hemispheres of your brain, and then it deals with tone, vibrations, and frequencies. And you train your ear to start to hear things that other people can't hear. So it kind of opens up your ears. So a lot of musicians that play by ears, because they've attuned their ears, your whole body is tuned to a frequency vibration because, as you know, our tones are FAC.
Yeah.
So yeah, learning a musical instrument helps you in so many ways. It helps you with rhythm, helps you with keeping timing. It helps you, as I said, with like the bass clef, the treble clef, and the triad, which is, like I said, the low, the mid, and the high in terms of the frequencies. So when you look at like a mixer, you know, you always have the high frequencies, you have the mid tones, and you have the low, and then you also have pan, which pans left to right. So yeah, as a musician, it's a good way for you to, even your sight, everything improves.
Okay, next level.
Yeah,
Dolphins and whales.
yes,
The music tones they use, which basically it's an old Star Wars movie they done, where basically they came back
yeah,
for the whales.
yeah,
I remember that, so watching it on YouTube. But I'm saying they came up for the whales because they needed the music from the tones
yeah.
for the whales for the planet Earth in the future.
Mm.
Get me? So what it is, I'm saying that in terms of us being here, the WU-SABAT is kind of music.
Yeah,
Same
the
thing.
language is music.
So
Yeah,
therefore, in terms of that tone frequency, are we then saying that obviously thinking on that level, your neurons and your pathways in your neuroplasticity
yeah,
will change the frequency of your thinking?
that's right. Because what you're doing is reproducing or awakening neurons that you've not used before. And by creating those neural pathways, it's like rewiring your brain to start working, yeah, again, the way it's supposed to work. So the master doesn't tell us to do anything just by accident or coincidence. But even if you can't play a musical instrument, your whole body is an instrument. Your voice is an instrument. You see, that's why we chant. The chanting as well helps to align you and tune you in. Because the first thing that musicians do when they get together to play is what? No, they tune their instruments. Yeah, you have to tune your instrument, or if you're off, you're going to sound different to everybody else. And when you're tuned, you're in harmony. Yeah. And when you look at your body, when I'm saying your body is an instrument, what do you have the different parts of your body? What are they called? Organs. They're called organs. An organ is an instrument. Yeah. And like once they're healthy and doing the right thing, they work together. Then you have your centers or seats, which people call chakras, right? But we have 9 of those. And we have 9 because the 8 relate to the musical alphabet, as in do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And those, each one of those is a vibration and a frequency that occurred at the birth of the universe. Now, when you put all of the tones together, do you get the number 9? So
The scale of 8.
yeah, that ties to the octawards, as I mentioned before, the 8 commandment that came out of the waters.
Yeah, which I get you.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of that, the frequency, the
Octave.
Octave.
Yeah.
In terms of the shape of the 8,
Yeah.
it's always going. It's constant. It's
Yeah.
constant.
That's what they use that symbol for infinity.
Okay,
Yeah. But if you look at it, it's actually a circle. And now you look at Meta and certain, they're using it as well.
Okay.
And then you look at the 808,
Yeah.
right, which the 808, you can see that those are also circles, but that deals with a vibration on the lower register, which is the lowest chakra, or the what we say that deals with the red, the lust, the carnal desires. Yeah. So when you listen to music and they've got that 808 in like a lot of the hip hop music, it's vibrating on that chakra. And that's why a lot of people, when they go to clubs, etc., they're taking drinks and they're taking drugs or like alcohol or smoking weed or whatever. Then that vibration is then leading to lust, and then people end up, having sex, which brings about entities from those vibrations. And that's why you've got to be vibrating on a higher level where you're dealing with more of the higher seat, the pineal gland, and go into the other 2 that the master is teaching us that we have to bring down. Remember what I was saying about how the sperm travels up to receive that, to bring down the right vibrational beings where we then produce golden children, as opposed to just bringing all kinds of entities to this planet.
Which I get you for.
Mm.
But I'm saying, in terms of conversation, some people walk in a shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, with conversation with them, you like see their whole profile.
Yeah.
And their mentality is like almost not stimulated as far as you are.
That's what I'm saying, because you're vibrating on a different vibration and frequency. So you want to talk about things on a higher level, where someone just wants to talk about the football. Like sometimes you go to the barber shop or you go to places and all they're talking about is which football team scored what goal. And like, you're like, the world is in this state chaos and we're not even getting ourselves prepared. But but you're right. It's all about mental stimulation when you're dealing with and speaking with people that are on the same vibration as you, and you connect automatically on that resonant frequency. All right, let me carry on. That's a fact, Zamal. The who controls the language you speak, they control your thinking. Okay. Nasat Ra'a Rahubat Musaf Tawu Azamal Seqen Sakamre for the invite. However, I can't speak. Okay, no worries. Yeah, I'm trying to see if there are any questions. Again, Anun says they need you to think in English so that they will be able to control your decision making. That's right, 100%. Critical thinking refers to pertinent, relevant, coherent thinking, excluding all irrelevant material. Exactly. And then you have analytical thinking, breaking down parts, creative thinking, generating new ideas, and critical thinking, Yeah, great contributions, Anun. Trapped by way of six ether forces, exactly. Paulette says, one becomes rebellious against the supreme being who created the entity as they get thoughts that do not align with the way our manner of thoughts processed. Thoughts, I think that's meditation, will be out of alignment. This is referred to as being rebellious. Yeah, being a rebel or not conforming. Okay.
I've got a question.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
So when it comes to, so we're talking about English and maths earlier. So in terms of the English that's covered in WU-SABAT with the language that we have in this material.
Sorry, 1 second. Do you mind getting my water? And I put it in the fridge. The short one. Thank you.
Yeah. So what about the maths and the numbers? Has the master teacher given them any?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. 9 ether. That's why the books have, if you remember, some of the old books used to have supreme mathematics at the bottom of them.
I think it's in the mind. Is that what the mind scroll has under every?
Yeah, some verse? Of them. Yeah, they had that. Here you go. Study book, supreme mathematics, because mathematics, the highest form of maths is 9 to the 9th power of 9, or 9 ether, which is our way. So that's what I'm saying. Like if you're thinking 9 mind, you're not thinking 6 ether or 6 mind, and 6 ether. 6 ether is what the problem is. And a lot of us are caught up on the 6 ether forces because it doesn't add up. It's like 6 ether is adverse to 9 ether. So they teach you everything that is not for you or goes against you. That's why you're taught to read from left to right instead of right to left, because your brain, like you have a logical side and you have a creative side, and they've confused it so that you're using logic for creativity and using creativity for logic. And that's why you can't function, because people who are creative generally are not very kind of business or able to, how can I put it? Like they're more just they're just creative, but they're broke because they don't deal with the math side or the calculation side of things. Just it's like you're just creative, but but then you can't survive or have an income because you then need someone that, this is what they do. They will say then you need a manager, someone to manage your affairs, so that even though you're so good or so creative and making great music, you ain't getting paid. And now it's even worse because obviously it's all about streaming, and because the record industries, they were exploiting a lot of creative people. Your Michael Jacksons, your Andrew Stones, and all those people. A lot, even Whitney Houston, a lot of them realized that their business side wasn't being taken care of. So even though they're making all that great, even TLC, they were broke. Many creative people end up broke, and you're like, you've sold millions of records, but because you're not actually using maths to manage your affairs in terms of the numbers and the money, then you lose out. So you put all that work in, and then somebody else is benefiting from it. And we know who runs the media. Yeah, the Jebusites. Right, Kosi, I see you have your hand up. Did you finish?
I just wanted to ask, when it comes to the supreme mathematics, what scrolls would you say are the best ones to sort to?
Well, Dr. York versus the computer is a good one to start with, because he's explaining that even though you look at the title and it says Dr. York versus the computer, you might think he's fighting a computer or some kind of robot or something, but it's not that. He's showing you that him being a supreme being, the people waiting to come in, and how he thinks, his mentality is far greater than any computer. And using natural mind, natural ether, or natural 9 mind is the best way. That's why I say the class, going back to the title, is how to think. And that's what he does. He literally teaches you how to think. And in any industry, they tell you that anywhere you're working, right? The highest level you can get to, let's say being a manager of a yeah, but it takes about 5 years to train someone to become a manager, right? It takes some people a lifetime to learn one religion, and they still don't know it because they don't actually use nine mind, or they don't use how to think. They just follow a book, and they follow a book that's been mistranslated in the wrong tones, in the wrong language, and they don't progress because they don't think outside the box. It's like, if you're Muslim, you're taught a certain way, like go to the mosque, pray 5 times a day, you do all this fasting, you do all these things, but you don't question if it's good for your health or not. Like, they just finished Ramadan, for example. The master explained, like, waking up at all hours of the night is crazy because it deprives you of sleep. And then prostrating all the time means that, and standing up, sitting down, go, like, your knees are gonna wear and tear over years. Your forehead's gonna get, you know, like, after a while, you're scraping and, you know. So I'm just using Islam, but we can do the same for Christianity. Like, people go to church and told to drink and eat the flesh of Christ and drink his blood, but they don't, and they just do it. They don't question, why am I eating his flesh? That's cannibalism, as we were saying before. And then when you start to break down the word cannibal, you're hearing Baal. And Baal is the name of one of the sons of Anu, Enlil and Enki. That's what they call Baal. That's Enlil. And then you got Yahweh, which is dealing with Enki. See, so thinking is so important. You have to think about, why are you doing what you're doing? Does it make sense? If it makes sense, that's WU-SABAT. If it doesn't make sense, then you don't need to do it. Right? I got some questions online. So Kosi, you got your hand up, and then we have Henrique after. Rahubat.
Rahubat Mugdal
Rahubat.
Seqen Sakamri Rahubat Moisar. So my question was in one of the OSM videos, one of the recent OSM videos, there was one where you were showing the 24 elders,
Yeah.
and some of them look like Dravidian. They don't look like Nagaru.
Yeah, Tua.
So my question was, it was said that the elders were timeless beings. So I thought it would make a correlation that they were all Nagao, since they were
No,
timeless beings.
being a
Wow.
timeless being means you're not governed by time. Like, our time is based on our planet rotating around the sun. So when you break the time barrier, you're no longer governed by time. There are beings, supreme beings, that have been sent to their own different races. You know, so like Rama is one of those beings, and a master teacher, when there's a recording called The Journey, where the master teacher goes on the crafts and all these different beings are there, and Rama is one of those beings that he's spoken about many times over the years in different books. And this is, again, where the confusion about Anunnaki comes in, because when you're saying Anunnaki, that's a group of beings, different beings. It's not telling you they're all Nagaru, or that they're all, because they're different beings that came to this planet. So you do have highly evolved beings that are able to go to their own races. This is why the master explained that every race has been sent their own warner. Even when you deal with the Mormons, with Joseph Smith, you know, he had a being called Moroni. That's right. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, there are different, when you have an intergalactic confederation, it's made up of beings that represent different galaxies. Like how we have the United Nations, where you have different representatives from, you know, different sovereign states or countries. So it's the same when you're dealing with extraterrestrials. So yeah, some of those beings are from different star systems, representing a different you know, galactic federation.
Wow. Tautak.
And
can I ask another one?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
And you were talking about Islamism and how they were getting on their knees, standing up and everything. But I also saw that it was taken from our Egyptian culture. And
Right.
I think I was reading somewhere and it was showing on the walls of Egypt where they were having those movements.
Tua.
So with what you said, how does it
We don't do things to the extreme. Like they saw, in fact, I'm going to show it to you because you've mentioned it. It's a great question for those online. So you find this in the Black Book. All right, so I'm going to just show you the poses where they get it from. Okay. And so because they saw us raising our hands to the sun in giving reverence or thanks or respect, I'm trying to make sure everyone can see it, giving respect to our ancestors or to nature, they then took that and made it into an extreme form of what they do, right? So when you say how does it apply to us, it's just saying that as everything else, they took
so
it from.
it was a it was occasional. It was not something they were doing every day, all day.
No,
Oh,
that's what I'm saying. It's like everything we did, they took it, most other cultures, and okay, let me give you an example. So we raise our hands to Amun-Ra or to the sun in respect of the fact that we understood that without the sun, we would have no life on the planet and that we wouldn't get crops, etc., because the sun gives life and gives us our vitality. Where then you got the Hindus who looked at that and then they started worshipping the sun itself. Like some of them stare into the sun until they go blind. Like that's not something we would do. That's extreme. Like you're taking it to another level. You know what I mean? So, like they just basically did things that related to their beings, because some of those beings are demonic. They walk on like fire, and they just take it to the extreme. So then other people also followed that, and before you know it, things were distorted by the extraterrestrials that want you to give off that negative energy. You see, so that's what's happening. But no, we don't do anything to the extreme. And there is a science behind what we did or what we do in our culture. All right. All right, Jason, your hand's up. Go ahead. You can unmute and ask your question. Or is it Henrik first? Go ahead, one of you. Any of you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Rahubat again.
Rahubat.
I've just been reading the Mind Scroll, and it's on a it says the mind's best friend and worst enemy. Master goes in there by saying that one should try to manipulate the mind, but not to struggle with it.
Yeah.
Could you sort of just give your take on that, just to give some more clarity on that, so whereby
yeah, it's not my word, it's the master. What he's explaining is that the mind is the most powerful companion that you have. Is very, very smart. It's so smart that it doesn't like you to watch it or monitor it, and so it will elude you. Like if you ever think, like if you start, and this is good practice, if you start monitoring your mind, and remember the master gives us the phrase, mind mind, what was it? Mind your mind. Thank you. Mind your mind for the jewels of your soul, right? Which means that your mind has the jewels of for your soul, and the mind is it will elude you. It's elusive. It's a, for lack of a better word, it's like a beast of a processor or a machine that when you're watching it to see your thoughts, because your thoughts, as I said before, a thought is tangible. It has a color, it has a vibration, it has a frequency, it has a weight, and you can pick up people's thoughts even just walking down the street, because thoughts are, they're traveling around, and that's why you can be in a really good mood, walking down the street, pick up somebody else's negative thought, and it will change your mood. But in that particular part of the scroll, it's explaining that when you start to monitor the mind, it will trick you into not watching it. So instead of fighting and wrestling with it, you have to treat it like a best friend and like someone you're speaking with and taming it. And the best word I can think of is like coercing it or gently persuading it to allow you in, to be able to not control it, to work with you for the greater outcome. So meditation is the way you do that. And when you sit down to meditate, what the mind will do is distract you. You start to think about other things. You can't focus. You can't, and then you have to catch yourself and then go back. Like when there's stillness and quietness and you're trying to meditate, you start to hear like the tap that is dripping from how many, you know what I mean, far away. You hear the cat, you start to hear all this sound, and you have to return back to focus and be like, okay, let's do this again. And you do it over and over again to the point where eventually you tame it, yeah? And then it starts to work with you. And one of the ways you can do that is, for example, when you become a vegan or a vegetarian to a vegan where you're not eating flesh, because a lot of mental power is used in digestion, in terms of digesting the food you're eating. So even when you try to stay focused, because you're not utilizing the power to deal with the mental processing, you don't get the best outcome. So it's really trying to teach you that you can't force the mind. You can't be like, because it will elude you. It will really trick you into sometimes you not even knowing it's doing it. So yeah, this is where the gentle approach is the best way to kind of like work with it, so it becomes your friend and not your it's like, yeah. Did I answer the question? If I did,
You made some more yes, that brings it to, yeah, because I remember there was one of the student teachers that was mentioning, and it was just touching slightly, as I can remember, but I can't remember just vividly, where he was saying that you have to ask the mind, what is my next thought, something in that line. But that's why I wanted to find out more.
sorry, I'm looking at
because
the
of this.
text.
Yes, thank you again.
Yeah.
That would
Somebody's asking you, what page of in the mind are you referring to? I think they want to look at it as well.
Page 32, scroll 8. The more it is possession, the more it wants.
Yeah.
And then the mind, best friend and worst enemy.
Okay. Tower
11. Thank you. Tower again.
Before we come to you, Jason, I see you have your hand up. That comment so funny, Delilah. Did anybody text Jesus? Just asking. It's true, because people say they can communicate with him, but he doesn't respond to texts. He doesn't respond to phone calls. He doesn't even respond when we ask him now, because I'm sure you guys saw that video I did with the sister Rita in the shop. And I asked her, can you talk to him now? And then it was it went into babble. All right, so what else did I see? Okay, can I send you some of my beats, Ray, tomorrow so you can tell me what to do because I can make music, but I can't read it. Okay. Yeah, send me, I'll have a listen. Okay, so Jason, go ahead. Jason,
Rahubat, Seqen.
Rahubat.
I have a few questions. My first one is what astrology does WU-SABAT have that has been taught by Dr. York or has been preserved from ancient times? And how does it compare to the Western or Vedic or the Chinese?
Yeah, because our ancestors were scientists, so they studied planetary bodies and so forth. What they call the zodiac today comes from the temple, the Dendera, okay, where if you look at that map, it's got Taweret in the middle, which is depicted as a hippo, because the hippo is a being that was amphibian in terms of it was in the water and it can come onto land. It was the first one. And incidentally, the word Taweret is where they get the word Torah from, the Torah, as in the 5 books of Moses. But yeah, we studied the stars and so forth and knew about energies and planetary alignments and how, in certain situations, this is why today we're able to say that the cycle of the new cycle of 24,000 years started in a year 2000 AD of the Gregorian calendar. But these are things that we've studied and also knew when, like would be the best time for 2 people to come together or to procreate, or if they were compatible. And this is where, because of the animals that they saw on the Dendera, like I mentioned, the hippo, they turned that into zodiac, which is really, the word deals with zoo, right? Because they're looking at it like the animal kingdom when they started to look at our ancestors as, like if you looked at Tahuti, he had the beak, which relates to the quill, and because he was a writer. And then you look at, different beings like Khonsu, he had the wings, and you see a lot of the disc or the sun disc with wings, right? That's our ancestors. And that's where, when you're now bringing it to today in religion and going to like Malachi chapter 4, verse 2, where he's talking about the Son of Righteousness coming with healing in his wings. The sun is the disc. We got one up there actually. I think we've even got one. We've got one on here. So yeah, so you always see the symbols. So, and we knew about the powers of the cycles and the energy that these different times came. That's why the master was able to tell us about the different alignments and what's going to take place during that time, and that we should be looking out for signs, so we've always maintained that we refer to it as solar biology, you see, because we knew that it's about the power of the sun, which relates to the 9 ether. So we've always known the cycles and know the power of the sun and natural ether energy. Why we're known as animists, because we know the power of the water, we know the power of the sun, we know the power of the soil, we know about the power, like this is where you get words like Tamu Nefuset, which deals with, Pata deals with the soil, deals with the beginning or the opening, and then Nefu deals with the air, and Set deals with the sun. Okay, so we then have words like Tamare, Ta again, Pata, and then you got Ma or Mu, because when you start to study the language, as we were saying, like even I jumped because we kind of ran out of time when I was explaining about the words, and that when you look at like the alphabet, when I mentioned before about the alphabet, I didn't really go into it, but when you're studying the alphabet, I don't know if you guys used to watch a show called Countdown.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So Countdown, they will say, give me a vowel, give me a vowel.
Yeah.
A vowel is A-E-I-O-U. And then the others are referred to as consonants.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So give me a consonant, and they'll put a series of them, and then you have to use your brain quickly to think and then come up with a word
Yeah.
within a specific period of time.
Mm.
So yeah, so we know about tones, vibrations, and frequencies. So when we said ta or mu, we can take the U, right, and replace it with any of the vowels. So A can replace the U or I. So you say ma or mu. So we say tamare, meaning that, again, ta dealing with the elements that bring about life, which is the soil or ta, ma or mu. And in our language today, for water, we say what? Anyone?
Aqua.
No. Maye. Yeah. Or and so yeah, that's water, and then re or ra or roy, just different tones, but it's dealing with the sun, because those three are what bring about life. So yeah, we still maintain our our system or our way, which is really based on the dendera, which becomes the zodiac, which the other people have borrowed in their culture. Did that answer the question, Jason?
Kind of, yeah. So for us who want to learn that from our culture, is there a way for us to learn that again? Or has like the master teacher made any books? Or is that shared in any of the
Yeah,
organizations?
some of these things that are in the books, but not like one specific book. But there was a book called Solar Biology. I'm trying to remember the exact title.
Solar biology, the calendar.
Yeah, and we have our own calendar, and in the calendar it goes into a bit of that, but he hasn't written one specific book just on that subject, as far as I'm aware. But we can definitely look more into that for you.
Okay, thank you. And then I had two more questions. My second one was, at what stage of time was our people at our peak in terms of advancement, knowledge, and influence around the world?
I don't know about our peak, because to be honest, we always have been. It's more of a distortion, and us forgetting. So really, what I can say is that in the last 6,000 years during the moon cycle, so because there are cycles, where we had a sun cycle, a moon cycle, and then a sun cycle, and then we've just come out of the last moon cycle of the last 6,000 years. So that will go back to like 4004 BC. And that's when we kind of got put under a spell, and that spell included us becoming in a spell of amnesia, the spell of losing knowledge of self, and we started to worship the moon gods and the moon deities, and that put us into a deep sleep. And so I would say it depends on how far back you want to go, because remember, we predate even the stars. When you're dealing with 76 trillion years of knowledge, that's going way, because remember, when you start to look at the bodies like the sun, we know when the sun was created, or our sun, shall I say, that was like 91 billion years ago, right? So if you've got 76 trillion years of information, that means you predate the sun, you predate the moons. So there isn't no real birth date for us. And so the last 6,000 years, it seems like a long time, but it's because we were under the moon cycle, and the Adamites were grafted during that time by these Pleiadians from Taurus, and they gave them power or dominion over the planet. And so they renamed everything, and they started to implement their ways, and we just kind of got, I guess, tricked into it, but they were given that as an experiment to see if they can be, what's the word, reformed. And the master made the statement, can the devil be reformed? And the answer is no, not nowadays. And so the decision was made to remove them. And that's why we're now coming back into our glory again from the year 2000. And it's really our time, but a lot of people are still under the spell. They're still not recognizing that they're free now, and it's our time for them to exercise and be who they're supposed to be by way of natural nature. And we're showing the way that you can be yourself, represent your culture, and let others represent their culture. And those who don't have a culture, then they'll have cultural appropriation, which is basically they latch on to anybody else's culture. But for us, the minute we start to implement our own culture, they try to stop us from waking up by saying you're a cult. And say a cult is people who go against the sixth ether world or sixth ether way of doing things. But you're within your right to live and be who you're supposed to be. You cannot be anything else. Or you can wear the clothes, you know, the garbs, you can grow your locks to reach your feet, you can go to the mosque and pray 100 rakahs. Like, that's not your culture. You're not a Muslim, you're not a Jew, and you're not a Greek or Roman, you're not a Hindu, you're African. So we have to remember that and be who we are. And it's starting to happen, but we need a lot more work to reach more people. And the more those of us who wake up, start to do what we're supposed to do, you know, the quicker it's going to be for us to get together and start rebuilding and reclaiming and doing like what we're supposed to do worldwide, you know, and we will be respected for that. Go ahead. You had another question?
Yes, thank you. And then my last question is, what has the master teacher said about dealing with other cultures? How are we supposed to coexist with them without losing our own culture?
By respecting them for who and what they are. Like he said, we respect the Hindus, we respect those people that have a culture. And he says, you treat people the way they treat you, or you respect those who respect you. So there are cultures like he said, like the Hindus and the Dravidians. He said we respect them. You know, the Sikhs, they have their culture, they wear their headdress, then they do their thing, and we got to do the same. So you respect those who respect you. We don't really but the thing is, we try to live and be like everybody else when we have our own culture. A lot of people don't know what that is, but now we're telling them what it is. It's WU-SABAT. We have our own language, our own dress, our own foods, our own dance, our own everything, our own scriptures, you know, our own deities. There's nothing in anyone else's culture that we don't have for ourselves. It's just that you've been basically beguiled and to give your energy to somewhere else instead of to yourself, and from us by us. That's why I used to like the brand food, for us by us, but then it got sold out, and you know it goes. But yeah, is that the last question?
Yes, that was the last question. It was somewhat more so geared towards, for example, in Africa, like there's been so much changes culturally in that land, with what the Europeans did, with what the Arabs did, culturally and with religion. And so it was more so geared towards how are Black people supposed to exist in that sort of land, while dealing with foreigners in that manner.
Oh, in that sense, yeah, we got to give them back their stuff, like Christians, Jews, Muslims, the monotheistic religions. they're damaging to us. They haven't helped us or done anything for us, so they don't work for us. So we've got to let go of them. Unfortunately, there are people who are still stuck in that, but that's why we have to do the work we're doing to get the word out so they can wake up. And on that note, we've run out of time. I want to thank everybody who attended today. And remember this, it all starts from you. It's not about pointing the finger or talking, we should do this. Like, what are you doing? Like, are you becoming a Nuwapian? Are you participating or are you spectating? You know, are you going to help? Or are you just going to stay on the sidelines and watch us do all the work? You know, people love what we're doing, but trust me, we've got so much more work to do. And most importantly, we got to free the master teacher by coming together in love and unity, right? So that's what matters at the end of the day. And we know what to do. Those on the inside, when you come close, we do get to know you and get to know who's real and who's sincere and who's just gassing and talking. And we're not looking for talkers. We're not looking for people that are good people. Good people are good, but we want people that can get the job done. And at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. You know, what's funny as well, some people, they don't come around or don't get along with this person or that person, but we have a mission. And at the end of the day, you've got to be able to put your differences aside. You know, sometimes you know someone doesn't like you. They know you know they don't like you. But at the end of the day, that doesn't get in the way of the work. We've got work to do. So let's just get on with it and get the master home. He knows the way and he's our guide. And that's what we've got to do, what he's saying to us we need to do. Come together under love and unity and let's build. Right, Wadu family, Tawkum, till next time, Wadu.
Overtak.
I should.